Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian. I'm here today at the Rock Island Auction Company, taking a look at some of the guns they're going to be selling in their upcoming April of 2016 premiere auction. And today we're going to talk about Lazar Yovanovitch. And I have the sole surviving example of his automatic pistol. So Yovanovitch was born in Belgrade, Yugoslavia in 1898. He went to engineering school in Ghent in the Netherlands, and of course studied engineering, never ended up actually finishing and completing a degree before he moved back to Belgrade wanting to get into the firearms business. So did some tinkering, hung out with some gun shops and some gunsmiths, and started working on three separate ideas simultaneously. He was working on a .22 caliber target pistol and a .22 caliber military pistol and a .380 caliber military pistol. Kind of creative, gung-ho sort of guy. Now, his .22 target pistol actually went together pretty well. He got a patent on it in Yugoslavia and started shopping around for manufacturers and was able to get the Anschutz company to manufacture his pistol. Really pretty cool. Anschutz is a well-known name even to this day. Unfortunately, Yovanovitch, while he was a creative engineer, wasn't really well versed in business practice, and he had gotten a patent in Yugoslavia, but that's it. And Anschutz isn't in Yugoslavia. And they manufactured his pistols for a short time before, I guess, they realized this, and realized that they weren't actually legally bound to pay him any royalties at all, and so they pretty much just knocked off his design and kept making it and stopped paying him. Definitely a bummer. This probably informed some of his later business decisions. At any rate, he went on working on his military pistol designs. The first ones actually had an underbarrel tube magazine for both the .22 and the .380. Interesting idea. Apparently he decided that wasn't really going to fly for military purposes and switched to a standard box magazine like we would expect today, and apparently also kind of ditched the .22 idea, which makes sense. The military, they're not going to be interested in a rimfire pistol. They're going to want a regular centerfire pistol, a standard officer's type of sidearm. And .380 was a perfectly typical cartridge to be building a gun like that in mainland Europe in the 1930s. So his 1930 pattern of .380 automatic pistol had an 8-round magazine capacity. It was a simple blowback mechanism, and it actually had apparently this really cool, fairly complicated cartridge counter system. So it would always tell you exactly how many rounds were left in the magazine. Yeah, that's kind of neat. Now he made an example of this to present to the military, hoping that they would be interested and test it, and presumably he wanted them to buy a whole slew of them and make him rich. In fact, the military really wasn't interested in his gun. It was a little too complicated and they just didn't care. So he's got this .380 cartridge counter gun and wants to put it to some use. So he actually, clearly he was a shooter and a gun enthusiast himself, because he actually went to Grenada in 1933 and used his 1930 pattern .380 pistol to compete in what I believe is the first year of the 25-meter rapid fire centerfire bullseye competition hosted by ISSF, the International Shooting Sports Federation, which still exists to this day, running world shooting championships. And apparently he wasn't a championship shot. He didn't win any of these events, but he was good enough that he also ended up on the Yugoslav Olympic team and competed in the 1936 Berlin Olympics with the same .380 pistol of his own design and manufacture. And I think that's really cool. I love seeing an inventor who's also an actual avid shooter, and Yovanovitch clearly was. Anyway, he recognized that this 1930 pattern gun with its complex cartridge counter was a little too complicated for the military, so he revised it to his 1931 model, and that's what I have an example of here. Manufactured a model for the military to test out, and he also manufactured a really fancy completely gold-plated, ivory-gripped model to present to the king of Yugoslavia, obviously hoping it would get his foot in the door. Well, the military wasn't interested. The king didn't put in a good word for him. He probably didn't have an opportunity to present it in person, but no record on exactly why the military didn't like it, but they rejected it, no sales. So as a side note, the gold-plated example ended up in the Belgrade Military Museum, where unfortunately it was stolen by somebody in 1944 during the chaos of World War II. And who knows, it may turn up somewhere today. It may be destroyed and long gone. Nobody knows. Anyway, that seems to be kind of the end of Yovanovitch's pistol manufacturing work or endeavors. In 1941, Yugoslavia declares war, enters World War II, and Yovanovitch enlists as a petty officer in the 1st Hydroplane Squadron at Kotor Bay, where apparently he saw some combat because he was captured as a POW by the Italians and spent some time in a POW camp. When Italy and Yugoslavia signed an armistice, he managed to escape the camp before it was reoccupied by German troops and fled to Switzerland, where he lived for several years. In 1951, he emigrated to Canada, which was kind of a popular location for European refugees at the time, and lived for many years in Canada. What's interesting, though, and relevant to this firearm, is that in 1958, he manufactured one more example of his Model 1931 pistol. He'd had to leave all his guns behind when he came to Canada. And so this model of 1931 is actually the only existing known example of this pistol. The military rejected it. The gold-plated one got stolen. There was never any production. It was never made it into commercial sales or production. Just this one that he went back and manufactured for himself in 1958. He got a permit for it in Canada, carried it, used it for target practice, all the sorts of things that you would do with an automatic pistol. Again, really cool that here he is, an inventor, and yeah, he could go the less expensive route and buy himself a pistol off the shelf. But no, he wanted his pistol, so he manufactured another one. It's marked Patent L. Yovanovitch, model of 1931. Unfortunately for him, maybe this wasn't the right financial decision because he got into financial trouble in 1960 and was forced to sell the pistol just to make some money. And that's how it ended up in the collector's market, such as it is. Ultimately, he moved back to Belgrade in 1974, where he passed away the next year in 1975. So that is the story of Lazar Yovanovitch and his model of 1931 blowback pistol. Why don't we go ahead and take a closer look at this gun? Because while it's not anything hugely innovative, I think it's really cool to be able to take a look at the subject of a neat personal story like that. So the model 1931 Yovanovitch pistol here has really kind of a sleek, cool looking tubular slide. It is a simple blowback mechanism. So there's a big spring up here, have a striker mechanism back here. You can see this little tab that locks it, holds the striker in place. Grab the slide, cycle it like so. The way he manufactured these, or this, there is this threaded plug at the back of the slide, and disassembly is done by holding this back, unthreading this plug and taking it out. The slide is then able to run forward off the frame, and the gun's taken apart. Pretty simple. Yovanovitch apparently actually built this pistol using the barrel off of a Browning model of 1910/22, which had been the Yugoslav service pistol at the time. So his barrel here is actually marked FN and caliber 9mm. 380 is 9x17mm. So that's when he went to build just one gun, it doesn't really make sense to try and build a rifling machine and all that. So he started with a Browning barrel, hence the FN markings there. He does have a manual safety on this pistol, which flips back and forth. And the safety markings on there are actually Serbian abbreviations because that was his native language. Here are the slide markings, Patent L. Yovanovitch, model of 1931. And then if you look really closely, there's a very faint number that used to be carved into the grips, which is apparently 3344, and it's the number that he used as a serial number for his Canadian pistol permit for this gun. It has a heel release, again typical of European military pistols. Overall, this is a very nice, slick little blowback 380. You know, it doesn't have to be anything super creative and brand new to be a well-made gun. And hey, I've got a huge amount of respect for the people who can actually design and manufacture a handgun of their own. A lot of people think that's simple and easy, and it really isn't. And the guys who can do it are very cool. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're interested in Yugoslav firearms or firearms designers, or you just like to have this cool, one-of-a-kind piece in your own collection, you can do that. It is coming up for sale at Rock Island. If you look at the description text below, you'll find a link to their catalog page on it. You can check out their description, their history, their pictures, and if you're interested, place a bid on it right there on the website. Thanks for watching.